Welcome in to Scramble Drill, the Dynasty Dive. We are here. We're talking Dynasty football. We didn't record last week, but we're back in action this week. We got a good one in store, and we got all three of us on the pod today. Ben Watts, Landon Davis, Josh Johnson. Fellas, how are we doing?
Absolutely wonderful. Today is a wonderful, super dark evening at 7 p.m. Because of the 6 farmers in Iowa, it is now incredibly dark. And it means that we got some Dynasty After Dark going on right now.
Do we need to take a second and discuss that daylight savings time sucks?
I thought we kicked
Not
that.
fantasy football.
I thought we voted that out.
I thought we did too, but it was like some kind of deadline on it. I don't know.
Can't kill it.
I'm tired of it. I am tired of it. Anyway, how is fantasy gone this week for y'all? I can say right now it has not gone well for me.
I am there's a give and take here, right? Because I am playing you in the Granddaddy of them all, and if Devon Achane and Puka Nacua combine for 20 fantasy points tonight, I will be happy.
Not 20,
You'll be
not
mad
20 each.
if they don't do it.
20 total.
Total. Yeah, total. Combined for 20.
And may I inform the listeners that this may be the only case you see all year of I started Jamar Chase and lost. In half-point PPR, Jamar Chase had 49.9 points.
It's hard to imagine.
I did see a tweet on Friday that was, it was, surely there's somebody out there that has a team with where they drafted Christian McCaffrey and Travis Etienne, and they just faced Jamar Chase on a Thursday night. And I was like, this is incredible. That's my team. And yet things might have turned. Fingers crossed, things might have turned.
They're going to get 20 points. Like, if it was one of them, sure. Like, okay, maybe Devon Achane doesn't score 20 points, but like him and Puka, they're going to get 20 points now.
It really looks that way. It really looks that way. I am as long as Kyron doesn't have 36 tonight, I'm looking at a 4-1 week. So, pretty good.
I might be okay if Kyron has 36 because that means that Puka probably doesn't get the ball all that much. That would be fine. That would be fine.
It would be slightly frustrating. We'll just need Devon Achane to pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll find out next week. Anyway, today I would say this is a heavy contender episode, and maybe rebuilding if you've got some of these guys on your roster and you have no shot of winning. But yeah, definitely a heavy contender focus. We're talking. Landon and I talked a few weeks ago about selling the first and when to do it, who's worth what. Now, this is the big one. We're in most leagues 3 weeks away from the playoffs. You got 3 full weeks, then the playoffs start. So, I mean, everything is more or less set in stone. Like, you know who the contenders are. You know who the rebuilders are. Now it's time to go all in. One way or the other, it is time to go all in. So, we're going to be talking about who's worth 2 firsts, maybe more. Who's worth the first and something, and maybe who can you just send to first and get and try to win. So we're going to be throwing out some names. Where do you guys want to start here? I know we each brought 3 names to the table. Do we kind of just want to go around in a circle and just kind of throw out one name? Talk about the guys.
We got one piece of news that is
yes. Oh, I forgot about that. I got too excited.
You jumped the gun, but it's fine.
I got too excited.
We got the one piece of news that I think
it sucks.
It's wild, and I'm very curious. I almost put this guy in as somebody we can talk about for the picks just because I wanted to have the conversation. But Chuba Hubbard got himself a long-term deal. Now, remember, folks, they drafted Jonathan Brooks in the 2nd round as the first running back taken in the draft.
To get him.
Traded up. And Chuba, now it's crazy because Chuba was not highly thought of coming into the season. I mean, it was like, yeah, he's a fine rotational back, and then now he is, probably been one of the 5 best running backs in football this year. He's been incredible, and he got rewarded with a long-term deal.
Yeah, It's more of I don't know if I don't think it's a Jonathan Brooks problem per se. I think it's just Chuba's played that well and he earned a contract, I guess.
Yeah, it's if you listen to Canales, he's just basically it hasn't even been about his play on the field that they like so much. It's the off the field stuff, it's how hard he works, it's that kind of stuff that coaches love. But man, this is one of those do you have anybody in the front office who knows what they're doing type conversations. Like I have no problem. Chuba's played really well. I have no problem with giving a player who's done what he's done an extension. But man, when you just traded up to take an injured running back as the first running back taken, someone who had a torn ACL, and you trade up to take him in the early second round, and then you turn around a little bit later and give an extension to this guy. I mean, it just it stinks for Jonathan Brooks. We've been high on him on this podcast. We've been telling you to buy him as a rebuild, but I mean, he can't. He has to take a massive hit with this news. Massive hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of talk about the front office, and it's been a lot of that same thing of like, what are they doing? And I mean, I'm at it from a different perspective. I don't think they thought Chuba Hubbard was this good this time last year. So it was kind of the surprise of the season, like, oh, wow, we've got a dude in the backfield. And this was, when they took Jonathan Brooks, they did not know Chuba Hubbard was this dude. So then you get to this point, and now you have the conversation of, well, Chuba's a lot better than we thought he was, and we still have Jonathan Brooks on ice. We got to figure out what we're going to do with him. Do you then not pay Hubbard even though he's good because you have Brooks? It's a weird situation where I don't think with the information the front office had, they've made the wrong decision at any point. But it's just weird when you look in totality. It's like, well, they've got this high pick they spent on a running back that now looks like you're not going to get full value out of it because you had this other guy you didn't know was good. Turns out he's awesome. And I think it's just like a weird confluence of events where you have more than you thought you did with Chuba, and now Jonathan Brooks kind of has to pay the price for it.
Well, also, as many holes as that roster has, paying a running back should not be high on your priority list. You need to get offensive line help. You got to get defense help. You've got to get. I mean, you traded Jonathan or Brian Burns. I mean, you need receivers. But
no,
I mean,
literally the two of the players who they have the top 5 investment in are running backs. No good NFL team does that. No good NFL team. I mean, you think, okay, Leggett they have more invested in. If you want to take, what's the corner's name that they took a few years back?
Oh, J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn, he was a first-round pick. I'd say they had more invested in him, but they're not really paying anyone. They have more invested in Bryce Young, but they've kind of tossed him aside. I know he's playing right now, but 2 of the top 5 highest investments they have are 2 running backs. It's just it's not a great start. I don't, and you can say they didn't make the wrong decision at any point, but teams have shown you don't win by having your most franchise capital invested in running backs, and that's exactly what they have.
That's probably true. I think a lot of people look at it like it's the Lions.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Maybe.
And Josh has mentioned on the show earlier, as good as Chuba's been, you don't necessarily throw him aside, but it was kind of a use him the rest of the season and don't play Brooks at all, and then switch it next year because I kind of agree. This is not a knock on Chuba. He deserves every penny of the money he got, but somebody else should have paid it to him, not the Panthers. Okay. Now can we get into what I want to talk about?
We can.
You want to stop things anymore, Josh? Okay. Landon, let's start with you. Throw out a name, and let's just talk. And set the parameters, too, of when we're talking about 2 firsts, 1 first plus, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Set the parameters for that.
So obviously a lot of trades you make, it's typically packages. It's rare that one asset is traded for one asset. It happens, right? But it's not that common. And so these are, if you're going to make a deal that doesn't involve any players, it's just picks. And we're talking in terms of These are high level. All these are high level dynasty assets that we're going to talk about today. We're talking about guys who can win you a league and have future value on top of that. Like, we're not talking about, whoever, George Kittle, right? We're talking about guys who are really high level assets. So kind of the parameters we're thinking are, these are people you're going to send your 25 first for, which if you're a competing team is probably 109 to 112. I mean, we're thinking 12-team Superflex is kind of how we're setting this up. And then, are they worth just that first? Are they worth more than that? Are they worth 25 and a 26? Always assume that's mid or late first on top of that. So I'm going to throw it out there in terms of first-round picks or first-round picks first. What do we think Brock Bowers is worth in a trade right now?
Several.
Because I know where I stand.
Just yes.
I think
whatever.
I think Brock Bowers is a guy that I truly believe is worth a 25 late first, a 26 mid first, plus a little something. Like, he's that level asset, in my opinion.
And I don't think there's a manager out there that's going to settle for less. Like, if you come to me, if I have Brock Bowers, if I'm contending or rebuilding, and you offer me a first, what is a first and Brandon Ayuk, a late first to Brandon Ayuk? I'm probably not taking that. That's how high.
No.
That's how high
no,
Brock Bowers is in people's eyes.
I wouldn't take it.
I've got Brock Bowers in a league, and he is the sort of, I think, difference maker that we're going to see 3-4 years down the line, where unless another freak talent shows up on the scene, I truly believe in 3 years, he and Trey McBride are the difference-making gap between those two and everybody else. And I think there's other good tight ends, but those two are elite talents. They get targets. They can score. They're a guy that can go have 13 targets in a game and also 150 yards in a game. And there's not that many guys that can do that relatively consistently week in and week out. Bowers right now is, I think, in the top 10 in targets and receptions for all players in the NFL right now.
Wow.
So you say 2 firsts, it's probably 3 firsts for Brock Bowers.
It's approaching that. And you would
He's
think
in the untouchable tier.
with how good he's been and how bad the Raiders have been, it seems like he's going to get a quarterback upgrade in the offseason through the draft.
Fingers crossed.
Shador or Cam Ward or somebody like that.
It could be one of those guys. And, that's huge. Yeah, I wanted to throw him in there just to – I feel like tight ends, the conversation gets weird at times. So I just wanted to outline, this guy is worth the moon and stars. He is worth 2 first-round picks plus to get this guy on your team.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Brock Bowers right now is what we wished Kyle Pitts was. And that's the unfortunate fact about Kyle Pitts, but Brock Bowers is the hype plus the production. Pitts was the hype. It just wasn't quite the production. So yeah, he's
still not riding him off just yet. I'm not doing it just yet. Wait till the Pitts Penix connection comes in. It's going to be over for you boys.
Yeah, don't hear her not saying we still like Pitts right here, but it's moon and stars, yeah.
Brock Bowers is I just wanted to say, he's in his own tier. We talked about Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. I think there's 2 tiers when you're ranking these guys. Tier 1 is Bowers and tier 2 is McBride. And then everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And we said a few weeks ago, we were talking about the biggest risers and fallers of the year, and we said, if you don't have Bowers or McBride, you don't have a dynasty tight end to build around. There's other good tight ends, there's other tight ends you want. They're not built around building block pieces. Those 2 guys are. And I will say this about McBride. He has no receiving touchdowns this year. He's got a rushing.
He has a rushing.
He has a rushing, but he has no receiving touchdowns. So, we could be looking a little different if he had 2 or 3, but still, Bowers is a good bit ahead of him. Bowers is going to be going late first round, very early second round in startups in the offseason.
Yeah, it wasn't a knocking Trey Bride because Josh was in on him before I was. It took me a little longer, but I'm 110% in on Trey McBride. I think he's awesome. But the fact that their production is similar, and Brock Bowers is 3 years younger, this isn't like a 1 year gap. That's a decent sized gap. Trey McBride's going to be 28, while Bowers is still 25. That's a huge gap.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Who are we talking about?
All righty. This first name here, how do we feel about Nico Collins in Dynasty? Is he worth 2 firsts, maybe 2 first plus, or just the contending 25 first and the 26 pick, or is he worth less than that?
I mean, Landon, you and I said in a previous episode that we're all in.
Yeah, he's a 2 first plus a little bit guy.
I think
in my
so, too.
opinion, that's what he is. I mean, he's tied to Stroud. Stroud throws it around, and I made this point, man. He has the ability that not a lot of guys have, and that is he can be a possession guy that gets 13 targets in a game, and he can score an 80-yard touchdown. And
He's
even
got some
like
Jamar Chase in him.
Even the best receiver, Devontae Adams, never quite had that. DeAndre Hopkins never quite had that. Right? I'm not saying he's better than them, like in their primes, but like he has abilities that just not everybody has. And he's that type of player.
He's the sort of guy that probably, as some of these elite players age out a little bit, like A.J. Brown, for example, he's going to produce for several more years. He's in the prime of his career. But as he gets older, and Nico Collins, as I think a couple years younger, you're going to probably see Nico coming in as like right behind Amon-Ra or maybe right ahead of Amon-Ra in dynasty ranks, because he's got the quarterback situation that's unchanging. He's got an elite quarterback for the remainder of his career. We've already, like what you said, I mean, we've seen him be the sort of dude where he can be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy on any given year, on any given week. And that production, he's one of the few guys that I think you can really say for the next 5 years, barring injury or something catastrophic, this dude is probably going to be a top 8 wide receiver in fantasy football.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, him and Bowers they're both. Bowers may be a little bit ahead of Nico, but like they're both going to be second-round startup picks at worst.
Very close.
So
very close.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% there with you.
Yep.
All right, mine is a guy I've actually tried to buy and couldn't do it. Breece Hall. Where are we on Breece Hall? Because I have thoughts and questions. I guess I want to hear where y'all would stand.
I'm really curious what y'all think too, because Breece Hall on paper should be worth 2 firsts, maybe 2 first plus.
He should be. I tried to buy him. Granted, this is a 1 QB league, but I tried to buy him for 2 firsts plus. Couldn't get it done, and I kind of sat there and questioned, was that the right decision by the guy to keep Breece? Because his argument was sound. He's like, if I want another guy like that, I'll probably have to trade 2 firsts to get him. I'm like, that's fair. But he's not producing at don't hear what I'm not saying. I still have Breece Hall as an RB1 rest of season. But he's not producing at the level that we all thought he would, and the Jets situation is getting worse. So
Dude, the Jets, man.
Did he actually
but
save me by not paying 2 first plus for Breece? I don't know.
I think that league's a little different. It's very shallow and it's a 1 QB. I think 12 team superflex. I would understand if you don't want to pay 2 firsts for Breece, but I do think that could be fair. I do think that could be fair. And Breece I thought Breece was going to be my bold prediction for the year was he's the RB1 at the end of the season. I thought Breece was going to take off. He hasn't quite done it, right? He's been good. But running backs have been pretty good this year as far as like redraft goes. Like running backs are scoring points again.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been one of the elite options. I think 2 firsts is still pretty close though. Just for the age. I mean, he is a 2nd round pick, so they don't have that 5th year option. So after this, you're talking about just next year's guaranteed, but I would assume their organization's going to be going through some transitions probably. He's probably going to get a 2nd contract. So I think that's fair, but I would understand if you don't want to pay that.
Yeah, he's so tough because the production on the field right now does not say 2 firsts plus something. but it's the
Right.
pedigree. We have seen him be elite before. Granted, last year he was elite in like a really terrible situation and he was getting force-fed targets. So there's context there, but yeah, I understand not wanting to do it, but I do think it's not the worst move ever to give 2 firsts up for Brees.
So I guess what I'm saying is 2 things can be true. I think 2 firsts is fair, and I'm probably not making this deal because I think just other moves make more sense.
That's fair. Yes.
I would prefer Derrick Henry for 1 first rather than sending 2 for Brees Hall right now. I would prefer sending something close, if not 2 firsts, for Saquon Barkley right now. Like, because Saquon, while he doesn't have as much future value, who's going to help you win this year?
Certainly
It's
Saquon.
Like, so I think 2 firsts is fair for Brees right now, but the production just, it's not to the point where I love that deal. I prefer I think there's other pivots to make that or make more sense for a contender.
That's fair. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
All right, Landon, hit us with your next guy.
All right. This is my guy. I'm pretty sure it's Ben's guy, and it may also be Josh's guy. We all like this guy. Kyler Murray.
Love
In a
Kyler.
in a 12-team super flex right now, what is Kyler Murray worth in terms of picks? Would you pay 2 firsts for Kyler?
Yes.
Yeah, I would too. I would too.
I would kind of see the same argument you had for Brees. I think Kyler's worth 2 firsts,
Okay.
but the quarterback position's a little bit deeper than it has been too. So would you rather pay 2 firsts for Kyler, or would you rather go get a Drake May or somebody like that for less?
Or Baker for 1 first.
Or Baker or somebody
So
like that.
why don't we play this out? Let's play a would you rather game here because I've got some dynasty rankings pulled up and we can compare Kyler to the names around him.
And I will say I'll agree with you. I don't think anything less than 2 firsts gets done for Kyler. I will say that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to get him for less than that. Jordan Love probably is worth 2 firsts. He goes right ahead of him. Do you feel better
think I
about
prefer-
that for 2 firsts?
I would rather have Kyler than Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, if they're the same price, they're really close. I'm a touch lower than most on Love and a touch higher than most on Kyler, so I think they're right there. Either way is fine.
Let's do 2 more names. Caleb Williams goes right after Kyler. Is he worth 2 firsts?
He is worth 2 firsts, I think. I think just another dynasty sidebar. You can't fall that much in a 3-game stretch. Like any 3-game stretch, especially for a rookie, just take a breath. Don't push a guy down 20 spots after a bad 3-game stretch. But anyways, I think Caleb's worth 2 firsts. I would prefer Kyler right now.
Last one, Brock Purdy.
Kyler, yeah. But Purdy's gonna get a deal too. Once Purdy solidified has a deal, it depends. They're probably gonna get rid of Debo. We'll have to see what happens. Actually, that situation's a little less stable than it has been in most of his career. But
I think Purdy's
I
scarier
would
with a
prefer Kyler.
contract than without because they have less money for his
Might
weapons.
be.
that's true.
He
That's
might be.
true.
Although
That's true.
I think Purdy without weapons this year has still been pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, he has.
So
He's
been very good.
he's been good. Now the team is 5-4 and not 8-1, but yeah, he's been fine. Yeah, I would prefer Kyler though. But Kyler's an interesting one.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. All right, Josh, just get it over with.
Ben doesn't like having this conversation, probably because
Mainly
this
because
guy's
I'm
about to
facing
steal
him
his soul
tonight.
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's personal bias involved here. So, do with this what you will. But Devon Achane for the room, is he worth a contending 25 first and a mid 26
Late second
first?
at best.
We're getting some hesitation. I'm going to go out and say yes, 1,000% yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I might feel more comfortable paying, and this is going to sound absolutely blasphemous.
I know what you're going to say.
I feel more comfortable paying up for Achane than I do Breece Hall right now.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I don't know, man. It drives me crazy playing against him because he just catches so many screens and doesn't get touched for 11 yards. And you're like, how does that happen? How does that happen? I probably wouldn't, but I do think it's fair. I think it's fair. I just, and it's a running back, so there's always injury concerns. He's so small, man. It scares me, but it is fair. 2 firsts is fair.
I'm probably there with you. I know Josh is higher on him, and I've always been historically lower. It's kind of another it's fair, but he still just scares me just enough that I probably am not paying 2 firsts.
It's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. Look, I will say this though. If you go out there and you send 2 firsts for Devon Achane, he could be the reason you win the league.
No, I totally agree with you.
He could be.
It just
if you want to
scares
do
me.
it,
I understand,
especially-
it's so crazy too, because like the injury argument's a good argument. Like there is reason to believe, injuries might be a concern for the remainder of his career. But I will say this: last year with Tua Tagovailoa, he was the most efficient runner in the history of football. This year with Tua Tagovailoa, he is a top 7 fantasy running back. Like there are no below top 8 finishes with Tua in the lineup. He pretty much scores 20 points every single week with Tua playing.
Yeah, like I said, he could be the reason. He could be the reason you do it. And if you want to send 2 firsts for Devon Achane, fire it up. Go ahead. I'd probably feel better about that. Like if for some reason I have 2 26 firsts already, I'll give one up. I'll give one up on top of a first to get him at that point. But yeah, it's probably fair. It's just for whatever reason, I've kind of been down on him the whole time too. He is legit though. He is legit.
I think I like the way you said it though. I'm not sending mine on top of a 25 first to get him, but if I've got a spare one to try to help put me over the top, I like that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right. Is it my turn? I got another Jet.
It is.
I did not intend, I didn't just pick the Jets and go with that one, but I want to have another conversation here on Garrett Wilson. Because similar argument to Breece, the Jets are going to be terrible next year. But Garrett Wilson, as of this week, obviously things haven't finished for the week yet, but he's wide receiver 3. He's leading the NFL in receptions. He's been better, actually, with Devontae Adams in the lineup. And it's not like he's going to – he's not anywhere near an age cliff. Yes, the Jets' offense is going to take a value hit, but the guy's going to be 25, and he's one of the best talents at wide receiver in the league. So what is he worth?
I've seen enough. I'll send 2 firsts. He's that type of player. I don't know how much more I would send, but I think we're barreling toward, and I love the guy. I think he was one of my favorite players a decade ago, but I think we're barreling towards like a Aaron Rodgers retirement or a cap casualty almost. Like it's getting to that point. And guys, they're 3-7. Like the Panthers are 3-7. They could be in the top 5 draft picks. So,
which actually would help the outlook of Garrett Wilson
That's what I'm saying.
Getting another quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. No. Could they draft a quarterback next year? I know people were kind of down on the class coming in, and now there's a couple guys people like, but it's not. It always turns out to be this. It doesn't seem like a draft where the top 3 picks are quarterbacks, right? Like it always turns into that by the end. But it looks like there's going to be, Travis Hunter's going to go. So it looks like you could have your pick of one of the top 2 quarterbacks at pick 5 maybe. Or, probably the second quarterback taken at pick 5. So could they get a big upgrade? I think so. And I'm willing to send 2 firsts for Garrett Wilson. I think he's that type of talent. I've seen enough.
It's so interesting you say that because I think 2 firsts is probably fair, but I don't think help is on the way. I think there's a very real chance. Probably, I think I'm willing to believe it's a higher chance than not that Garrett Wilson gets stuck in the Terry McLaurin purgatory where he's great. Everybody knows he's awesome, but he doesn't have a quarterback. And I don't know what that means
better than Terry McLaurin has ever.
Oh, he's better than Terry.
I do too. Yeah. But even elite receivers can't overcome the fact their quarterbacks are terrible. Like Larry Fitzgerald was having 1,100 yards.
He's doing it right now.
Rodgers is not terrible, though.
Oh, Josh.
Okay. Do you want to look at some stats, Josh?
Rodgers is doing just enough to provide for 2 receivers.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers threw for 150 yards last week.
Last week, yes, but the man's averaging like 225 yards a week.
He has yet to throw for 300 in a game. And Garrett Wilson is a wide receiver 3.
He's also not throwing for 150 yards every week. He's throwing for like 225 yards a week,
a
touchdown and a half.
I see your
point. He's not great, but he's not horrific. There's a real chance his quarterback next year is horrific, and then maybe for several years after that.
Can I give a prediction of who the starting quarterback week 1 for the New York Jets is?
Please do. I have a prediction as well.
I'm coming home. Give me Sam Darnold.
Oh, all right.
Give me Sam Darnold going back to New York. J.J. McCarthy starting in Minnesota. Sam Darnold's in New York on a 2-year, $48 million deal.
Oh, man. I think it'll be Tyrod Taylor.
Okay, Tyrod Taylor.
They're just going to run it back with a backup.
Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, gosh.
Can I be very clear of Sam Darnold and Tyrod Taylor? I don't hate those as options for Garrett Wilson. Like, they'll feed him.
Yeah.
They'll feed him.
All that to say, 2 firsts probably fair. I don't know if I'm See, here's the thing. If I can go pay 2 firsts for Garrett Wilson, I'm probably going to go pay 2 firsts instead for Nico Collins. But
yes. Yeah, I definitely prefer Nico. For sure prefer Nico.
So
no, I don't
there's
disagree
that.
with that.
But yeah,
prefer
it's
Puka.
probably fair. Yes.
I prefer Puka. So he's very close to that tier of player, but I prefer both those guys to him.
Yeah.
I'll say I like him enough to where I think 2 firsts is fair as well. And like he's 24. I mean, he's not gonna drop off a cliff next year. He will help you win the league this year because he is the wide receiver 3 right now, and I don't necessarily see that really going anywhere. So, and we've seen him be top 25 with the worst quarterback play in football. So, I think it's a fair deal to send that.
So my next guy then, it kind of, in my opinion, he's right there. What are we doing? What is Drake London worth? Is he worth 2 firsts?
Probably.
That one's more difficult. And this is coming from the Falcon fan in the group. Is like Drake London had everything lined up for him to be amazing. And he's been good, but he hasn't been Garrett Wilson good. I guess he's the wide receiver 4. He hasn't been as flashy, I guess. He's been more consistent. Is he the wide receiver 4? No way.
Am I reading that right? I thought I saw he was wide receiver 4 as well, and I was like, there's no chance that's accurate.
No way.
Wow. So, okay.
Consistency wins out, huh?
Okay, yeah, fine. 2 firsts. Because and I'll say this for Drake London. His quarterback situation is kind of set. Like, obviously, Michael Penix could suck.
Oh, it's set.
But he's got Kirk for another year, and then he has a first-round pick that's been sitting back, waiting, learning from Kirk Cousins, ready to take over. So we know who his quarterback is the next 3 years.
Yeah, I think, he's 2 firsts.
So I'm curious then, because we just talked about Garrett Wilson, who do you feel more comfortable paying for, Drake London and Garrett Wilson? They go back-to-back on Fantasy Pros Dynasty rankings, so they are next to each other.
I don't think it matters.
Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I said I preferred Garrett Wilson to him. I think Ben asked me this question directly, and I said Garrett Wilson. They're the same. I almost said London. I thought I was going to say London when I started that sentence.
It genuinely, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I don't think it matters either. They're like the same. They're the same draft class. They're the same age.
They went back to back in the class.
I think Garrett Wilson is better. I think London's situation is better. I think the safer pick is London. London is safer.
Yes.
London is a guy who, if you trade 2 firsts for him, it's safe. Like, you don't feel like he's going to go way down. I don't feel like he's going to go way up. I do think Garrett Wilson could go up, but he also could go way down. So I would say London's safer. And if you're sending 2 first-round picks for guys who are producing similarly this year, you kind of feel good about the safer option, I think.
Yeah. And I think for rest of the season, I prefer Garrett. So keep that in mind as a contender buying and sending 2 firsts. I think Garrett gives you the better option or chance to win this year.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, number 3.
Yeah, my last one here is Malik Neighbors. And probably a couple weeks ago, this would have just been a foregone conclusion. Yep, send away the picks. Don't worry about it. But we have had the resurgence of reality where Daniel Jones is, in fact, his quarterback and probably won't be the quarterback next year. It looks like that ship might have sailed. He has managed 72 starts. Which is incredible because he's been so bad for all 72 of those starts.
Josh, he might not be the quarterback next week.
Okay.
Like this,
I was trying to be diplomatic about this, but yes, he's gone.
This podcast is going to come out probably tomorrow. Like, we might have gotten the news Drew Lock is starting.
You're probably right.
On Sunday.
Yeah. No, there is an injury guarantee in Daniel Jones' contract, which I think incentivizes the team to not let him get on the field again.
Oh, there's an injury guarantee?
Yes.
All right. I would go to waivers and pick up Drew Lock.
Now?
If you're in the league right now?
So Malik Neighbors with an unknown quarterback moving forward, is he worth 2 firsts, yes or no?
Yes. That's not even a question. He's a second's hesitation in my mind.
He's Garrett Wilson 3 years ago, but maybe even a touch
better.
More talented. Yeah, maybe even a touch more talented. So
he has 2 games where he has less than 10
and the Giants.
targets.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so and Daniel Jones, like, it's just there's been several plays. I own Malik Neighbors in our biggest league, and like, so I've watched him pretty closely. It's not even that the targets are uncatchable, but it's plays where he's streaking across the middle, and if it's in stride, he could score a 70-yard touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a little low, and instead he has a 21-yard catch, which is great, but it could have been a 70-yard touchdown with a more accurate throw. Like, it's just that type of thing. It's been kind of frustrating, especially these last few weeks. But he's that guy. Like, we supplanted him above Marvin a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, and like, I think that's not like a hot take. That's like a common thing now. Like,
There's a thing too where Daniel Jones now he's been so scared of throwing picks, even though he still throws picks, that he won't throw the ball downfield anymore. And Neighbors and Wan'Dale both. Like, Wan'Dale Robinson is a nice complementary receiver. They're both so many plays where they are wide open, and Daniel Jones just doesn't look. He doesn't even know they're there because he's just thinking about the check down.
Yeah, it really is. Dayball, he knows it's one read. It is one read, and then it is check down or run for Daniel Jones. Like, he's not the type of guy that's just really comfortable in the pocket. So, but anyways, that being said, yeah, I would pay because he's the type of guy also, like, obviously he's got a ton of future value, and maybe this is a move where, like, you've loaded up on first round picks and you got a bunch over the next 2 years, and you're like, I'm going to send 2 picks to get Malik on my team to be ready for next year. Yeah, he's definitely worth that.
Yeah. All right. So last one here, and I don't have we had a guy that we've said no, he's not worth 2 firsts.
No, we haven't. We win a lot of guys. We win a lot of high end.
Every
guys,
single one of
apparently.
these guys is worth 2 firsts. I think my last one will be the first one we might say no, and it's Kenneth Walker. Landon you and I talked about him actually a couple weeks ago as being basically in and a top 5 dynasty running back and all this. I guess not exactly putting our money where our mouth is because we don't have this offer on the table in any leagues. But if we're trying to push for a championship, are we sending 2 firsts for Kenneth Walker?
I'm not.
I feel the same as I did with Brees. I would prefer to send 1 first for an older running back rather than pay 2
have
for Kenneth Walker.
Kamara for 1 late first versus Walker for 2 firsts.
Yeah. Now, like a 25 first and a 26 second, yes, I would do that. I would do that for Walker. But 2 first, man, that's a big commitment. Like, I know all the guys we've mentioned, we've said yes to, but you're talking about 25 guys, probably in fantasy football, that are worth 2 firsts. Like, 2 firsts is a big commitment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Walker's right on that fringe line where you're talking about names like Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams, Achane, where it's some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no. I think of those 3, Achane I feel fine with. Kyron probably, I feel like I should feel okay with sending 2 firsts for Kyron because he's so productive, but there's still something in there. It's like, I don't know. Kenneth Walker's the one where I think he's shown enough on the field just in like terms of raw numbers to say, yeah, probably. But there's something about Kenneth Walker, and it could be the Zach Charbonnet thing. It could be the frequent injury thing where he doesn't have season-ending ones, but he always misses like a couple games a year or something. I know he's getting so many targets this year, much more than he has in years past, and so he has a safe floor. But there's still, I don't know. I'm not 2 firsts in on Kenneth Walker. Definitely a first plus something, though. I think he has jumped into that, like, yeah, you feel great about having him as an RB2 on your dynasty team.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's not 2 firsts for me. And I think it is the Zach Charbonnet problem. It is not that Zach Charbonnet is necessarily breathing down his neck, but none of these other guys have anyone that's even remotely close to them in their offense. Obviously, Bijan and Gibbs have competition. Bijan shouldn't, but that's a different conversation.
He had less yesterday except for 3 straight carries from the 1. What was that?
David Algier 3 straight times from the 1, and then on 4th and goal from the 1, they give it to Bijan. Imagine that, he scores.
Guys, here's a crazy thought. Let's give our talented football players the football and let them do things with it.
No, we're not going to do that.
Because Algier is 300 pounds and great for 1-yard runs. No, we're not going to give our superstar running back the ball.
No. Guys, let's bring the band back and run more Jonnu Smith reverses passes to Mac Hollins. Why not do that? From the 2-yard line.
Let's get all Marty back in here.
You see him for the Bills yesterday? Josh Allen was hitting him like every time on 3rd down.
I thought you were going to mention the fact that he doesn't believe in elevators, or he doesn't wear shoes, or he doesn't use utensils. But yeah, he also plays football too. Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins? I did not know that. Apparently,
Mac
Hollins
does not believe in elevators.
The former Tar Heel Mac Hollins, by the way.
I forget that.
You didn't tell me they were
former Tar Heel.
You didn't tell me they were producing psychopaths up there in North Carolina.
Oh, that's all we put out. Back to Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
Back to Kenneth Walker. Yeah, I there's just other moves I would prefer. I think kind of a theme we've seen here is on the receivers and the quarterback and Bauer's side, we're much quicker to give up 2 firsts for. For running backs, we're much more like, see if you can pivot and make a different move. Even if it's fair value, like that doesn't mean that's the move you should make.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
running
Kenneth
backs,
too,
and this is a thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Just running backs in general are so much more volatile year to year. And I know you have, like, stud running backs tend to have staying power. We've seen that. But outside of a couple guys, it's so situation dependent whether or not they produce. And there's only a couple guys in terms of running backs that I think are pretty much situation proof, or at least will be good enough to where you feel fine sending away draft capital for them, regardless of situation. Receivers, it's so different. I mean, there are, like, I know Ben and I were talking at some point. I don't know if it was on an episode or just texting, but like, there are legitimately 20 super talented receivers that could be excellent if the situation broke just right for them. If they had a quarterback, if they had an offense that would actually feature them, things like that. The talent's there. If the situation will align, they'll be excellent. Running backs, there's like 5. And so it's just really tough to want to send significant draft capital away for a running back. I think I am now, because you have older running backs that produce, I think we've seen that be a thing now, much more willing to send away big capital for receivers and tight ends, positions that we know will be good for multiple years, and then go do the 1 first for Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon or Aaron Jones to mix in with running backs and go get a championship that way.
Yeah, that's what makes, that's definitely what makes a lot more sense now, I think.
And I think another, and it's not that necessarily Brees or Kenneth Walker are by any chance in risk of losing their jobs, but this incoming class of running backs is very strong. Very strong. So
absolutely.
The running back landscape is going to change in a big way from the 2025 class. So that just gives you a little extra hesitation when it comes to getting those guys.
Absolutely. So let's just say, just for instance, and I don't know that this is going to happen, let's just say the end of the fantasy season this year, Brees is close to consensus RB3, A-Chain and Walker are close to consensus 5 through 7, somewhere in there. They could start week 1 next year, Brees as the RB5 or 6, and those two guys closer to RB10, just because if certain running backs get certain landing spots, they're going to take those spots because as the dynasty community goes, we love rookies. We love rookies, especially rookie running backs, because they have what no 26-year-old running back has, which is guaranteed contract for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so that's another factor to bake in here, where their situation may not change, their production may not change, but their value could change just based on an influx of talent at the running back position.
And you're probably looking at 3 running backs in this class that will be in that top 10 conversation.
I mean, if Ashton Genty, God forbid, goes to like the Cowboys or somewhere, he might pass Gibbs.
Terrifying.
I mean, he could be tied with Brees or Bijan, if not ahead of him.
It could be.
In some people's eyes.
It could be.
And then you've got the Vikings, who are going to need a running back when Aaron Jones, like if Caleb Johnson or Quinshon Judkins goes there, I mean, he's going to fly up the rankings.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could continue naming, like, there's a lot of good running backs in this class. Omarion Hampton.
Yeah.
Great.
Travion Henderson. Like,
Singleton from Penn State. Like, there's guys. Ollie Gordon. There's guys.
Yeah.
I mean, what if we have, obviously this draft class was crazy, but what if we have like a similar 2nd to 3rd round of 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what if we did? Like, what if we got 6 real producers?
As good and as deep as this class is, you can't predict that, but you can't rule that out either. Like, there's legitimately 5 to 7 extremely good, like worthy of 2nd round draft capital in real life type of running backs in this class.
Right. I think a good way to put this in perspective is the 2 top receivers that are coming in next year, right? There's like 2 guys head and shoulder, Luther Burden, and what's the other guy?
Tet McMillan.
Tet McMillan.
I promise you, week 1 next year, it's going to be Jefferson, Chase, Lamb, Neighbors, Amon. Like, they're not going to be there. We just saw Marvin and Malik come in, and they were like 5 and 6, 5 and 8. Like, they were around there. That you're not going to see a wide receiver come in and be wide receiver 1. You could see that at running back next year. You could legitimately see that.
I mean, it
right
happened
off
with
the bat, Ashton Genty,
Bijan.
running back 1.
Bijan went to Atlanta.
It happened with
Immediate RB1 in Dynasty. Immediate.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else y'all wanted to add to this one? Are we trading 2 firsts for Jefferson or Chase?
I would.
Yeah.
Personally.
We will. We will trade 3 firsts plus for those guys. Absolutely.
3 firsts. Josh Allen. Are you getting 2
3
firsts for him?
plus.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Lamar.
Just
yes.
wanted to check in on those guys and see. Maybe
One other
you'd
thing
lower
I'll
it a little
mention,
bit.
and I've mentioned this kind of throughout these weeks. If you've listened to all of them, like, don't fall into the trap of I'm not winning this year. I'm a rebuild, and I have one of these guys that we've mentioned, especially if it's a receiver or quarterback or Bowers. Don't fall into the trap of I get offered 2 firsts. I love firsts because I'm a rebuild. I've got to sell them. No, you don't. No, you don't. Just because you're a rebuild, that does not mean you should value multiple firsts over some of these guys. Like, it's okay to hold guys. These guys are going to be productive. There's a reason someone wants to send you 2 firsts for them. It's because they're going to help you win now and in the next years to come. So don't fall into that trap.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I don't think that's anything else. Gentlemen, if you enjoyed what you've heard today, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram. Yeah, I think that's it. We will catch you guys in the next video.